Hello, my name is Tommy Eriksson and I will talk about using Mozilla Hubs in a university course in movie production. And as you see here, my affiliation is Chalmers University of Technology in Sweden. And the background to this is that I am examiner for a digital movie making course, and this one have been running for about 20 years. It usually have 20 to 25 students, and it combines theory and practice. Theory in the form of seminars and practice in the form of a quite big movie production that the students are doing either individually or in groups. Since 2012, I have been running this course in hybrid mode, meaning that the students themselves choose if they attend online or on campus. And then I have been using flipped classroom, and for the real-time interaction with the students, I have been using Zoom, a video meeting platform. But as you all know, we have had the COVID-19 pandemic, and in Sweden, actually, the universities have been closed down, and most of the teaching have been online. And so the students have been sitting in Zoom, and just as many other employees and so on claim they experience Zoom fatigue, or maybe what we should call video meeting fatigue. We get tired of sitting in video meetings for a very long time and very often. So I chose to use the Mozilla Hubs platform, and the reason for this is that Mozilla Hubs can be used immersively with a headset, but it can also be used in 2D mode. And I knew that most of the students, or maybe all of the students, would lack a virtual reality headset. So therefore, I had to choose a platform that could have a 2D mode. Mozilla Hubs also runs in a browser, which is really convenient since you don't have to install a client. It's very easy to go into Mozilla Hubs. You basically just go to an URL. And Mozilla Hubs is also very do-it-yourself. You can create your own environment, your own avatars, and so on. And it's very free to create the experience that you want to create. In order to explore how this would be working, I formulated 3 research questions and hypotheses connected to those research questions. One was whether the pedagogical and social experience would be on an advantage or disadvantage compared to ordinary video meetings. So then the hypothesis was that the learning outcomes would not be affected by the virtual reality utilization. And I also anticipated that it would provide a high level of social presence. I also wondered whether Mozilla Hubs would be appropriate for all the learning outcomes of the course. And my hypothesis was that it would be working well for all learning activities, and we'll get back to that. The third research question was about how long time would it take to actually get into the meetings, because my experience is that it is very quick to get into a Zoom meeting. It can take like 20 seconds to start a Zoom meeting, but my previous experience with getting into social VR platform was that it could be quite time consuming. So here are the findings. When we can start with the big meetings in Mozilla Hubs with 20 to 25 students, as we had on the course introduction and the guest lecture. And that had quite severe technical issues, primarily with the audio. The audio fall off had the effect that you had to stand very close to the speaker, otherwise the audio volume would be too low. And also we had problem with noise, that the audio didn't work at all, and so on. And we also had problems with participants being thrown out of the session. And unfortunately, one of those participants was the guest lecturer, who was thrown out 4 or 5 times during his attempt to give a guest lecture. However, the supervision meetings, they were much smaller in the number of participants. Depending on if the students were working in groups or not, I was meeting the students, either one student or up to 4 or 5 students. And this worked very well, actually. The novelty was appreciated by many of the students. And at least me, as the examiner and the teacher, experienced a quite high level of social presence. I actually got the feeling of being together with the students in a room and being embodied together with them. There were a couple of smaller issues too, though. The Mozilla Hubs avatars, many of those are non-human, and they can be plants or robots, and that kind of break the social presence. And to have a supervision with a student that looks like a plant or a robot is actually a little bit distracting and didn't give the emotional connection that you want with a student. And many of the participants didn't understand the capabilities of Mozilla Hubs also. I realized that a couple of the students, they didn't understand that they could actually screencast in Mozilla Hubs, so they missed that opportunity. However, you can actually screencast in Mozilla Hubs, and in this image, it is a reconstruction from memory of how one of the supervision meetings was taking place. And here we have the students, and she is screencasting from her computer, and we are talking about the movie script that she is working on. And that kind of discussion about a document that we could bring into Mozilla Hubs, that actually worked quite well when we were doing it. It wasn't often, but a couple of times we did that, and that worked very well. And here's an example of how the environment looked with the avatars. And here we have 4 students that represent as robots, and it was a little bit distracting to have this view of these avatars like this. This is also a reconstruction from memory, but the background that you see here, that is a screenshot of the actual virtual environment, the Mozilla Hubs environment, where we had the supervision meetings. And to look back now on the hypothesis, let's see if they were fulfilled or not. Hypothesis number 1 was that the learning outcomes wouldn't be negatively affected. And looking on the grades and the passing rate of the students, the number of students that passed the course compared to earlier runs of the course, this is correct. There wasn't any effect that the learning outcomes was negatively affected. When it comes to social presence, sure, for me, it was a high level of social presence, but there wasn't any indication that the students really felt that kind of social presence, maybe because they were attending via 2D interface and not in a VR headset in immersive mode. Hypothesis 2 was that Mozilla Hubs would work well for all learning activities of the course. And for the full class, this was no, it did not work well. However, for the supervision meetings, it was a yes, it worked quite well. And finally, hypothesis number 3. Here I feared that it would actually take a long time to get into the meetings in Mozilla Hubs. But that was not correct. It was actually quite quick. If I started up I used Oculus Quest for these meetings, and if I had to start up the headset from scratch, it was turned off, then it took about 3 minutes. But if the headset was in sleep mode, then it actually took just 30 seconds from picking up the headset until I was in the meeting talking to a student. And comparing that to maybe 20 seconds to start a Zoom meeting, it is actually quite quick that you can get into these Mozilla Hubs meetings. So this is my conclusion here about using Mozilla Hubs for teaching in this university course. And hopefully you will read the full paper and we'll meet at the conference. Thank you very much for your attention.